Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. Welcome back to the Early Bar Football Podcast. We are back after a holiday. Why are you shaking your head already, Ed?
Because you got it in the wrong order again.
No, it doesn't. I've said this before. It doesn't matter what the order is because people listen at different times.
At least be chronological. Come on.
Nah, there's no need to be. Anyway, I've just got a notification here from. You can now upload multiple files. Oh, that's boring. That's boring StreamYard stuff. I thought it was important, but it's not. Anyway, it's been the Halloween weekend, but the scariest thing I saw was Spurs' defending at the weekend. That was terrible. We'll get onto that though. That's a Halloween pun. That's a Halloween joke. That'll probably Gary Lineker or something. We'll do a match of the day. Anyway, I'm joined by Chris. Hello, Chris. How are you?
I'm still recovering from Saturday. Please drink responsibly.
Yeah, 2-day hangover here, Chris. Are you getting old?
Yeah, I'm getting quite old. I'm not going to lie, but still one of the youngest on this pod. So,
are you the youngest on this? No, because Dan's
no, I'm not the youngest. Yeah. But
you're right. You're smack bang in the middle there.
I am.
Made the fatal mistake of trying to exploit the extra hour in bed, baby.
Yeah, certainly did.
The clocks did go forward. No, backward, didn't they? Good. Which meant it was dark at 4:30 this afternoon, which I hated personally. That was boring. Anyway, Ed, hello. How's it going?
Yeah, guten Tag. All good, thank you.
Fantastic. Had a nice weekend?
Yeah, delightful. Bit windy, wasn't it?
Yeah, it depends where
Bit
you were.
Blustery.
It was just raining in London.
It was pretty
hurricane climate in Didcot.
Lynchy,
hello.
Can't expose where I live. It's disgraceful.
Happy World Vegan Day, Dan.
Thank you. I didn't even know it was World Vegan Day, so that's news to me.
Oh no!
Because it's
outrageous.
In
the first 3 minutes of the pod, you've exposed where I live. You've told everyone that Chris has got an alcohol problem and that Dan's vegan. What's he got on Ash?
Oh, I don't know, Ash.
His beard's not real.
Huge if true. Ash, how's it going? I have nothing to expose you for.
What's his bank card number?
My beard is real. I can confirm to all our early Bath listeners.
I could probably expose you got like fake AirPods because they weren't working pre-pod. That's all I can expose you for.
I am actually a Dalek. Didn't you know?
Anyway, are you good though? Are you good? Sorry.
Yeah. I've recently moved to a location which I'll not disclose.
I'll disclose
I'll
it.
Just say the West Midlands. Say nothing.
I won't disclose anything. No, it's fine. Sorry, Ed. I didn't mean to disclose your location.
Link to Ash's OnlyFans is down below.
Oh no!
Start that rumor.
Christ! Wow, what a scandalous opening.
He takes requests.
Oh, no.
Right, okay, let's crack on with some actual football content, not just content in general. The big news, boys, is of course Nuno Espirito Santo is Nuno.
Oh, you almost got that right.
Nuno more? Yeah, I was trying to think of a pun to do, but basically he's been sacked. He's gone. Early bath for him, although we've debated whether that's actually an early bath or not. Either way, he's got sacked. And Spurs might be getting Antonio Conte in because he is the only manager that is available, apparently, in world football because United won them last week as well. So welcome to the Where Will Antonio Conte Go football podcast, it seems. Chris, are you surprised that Nuno's gone?
I'm not surprised, really. I do feel sorry for Nuno. It's not his fault what's happened. It's all down to Daniel Levy and the board at Tottenham, just not even running the club properly. It's an absolute farce what they're doing at Spurs. I mean, it's just baffling that they could have got Conte in the summer if they just offered him the right amount of money and given him, the transfer budget he wanted. All right, it might have been a lot, but like if they're going to go for him anyway, like now, they could have just not led Nuno along this string and that. But like I said, I feel bad for Nuno because he wasn't wanted at Spurs, was he? He was like fifth choice in the end because they went for Conte first, then they went for Fonseca, Then there was another name, and then obviously Gattuso, and then obviously the fans backlashed against Gattuso, and then they eventually got to Nuno, and that, and like he started off well. He got 3 wins. He won Manager of the Month in August. Let's not forget that he actually won Manager of the Month, beat Man City first game of the season, and that it was just the Tottenham fans didn't like his style of football. I mean, what is it? They haven't had a shot on target since like the 44th minute in the West Ham game, and that's going a couple games back now. And that, but then what did the Tottenham board expect? Like, I don't want to sound disrespectful to Nuno, but he is pretty much a B-Tech Jose Mourinho, and like, well, Spurs had Jose Mourinho before.
I don't want to disrespect you, but you're terrible.
Wow. Like that. Don't get me wrong. Like, obviously, Nuno, he done like a good job at Wolves and that, but he wasn't really a name that. I mean, to be fair, Tottenham fans think they're an absolutely massive club. I don't know where that's come from. They've only won 1 trophy in 20 odd years, and that, like, even Arsenal going through their worst period have won more trophies. I mean, that's pretty much embarrassing if you're a Spurs fan. But yeah, like I said, I just feel sorry for Nuno. But if they're getting Conte, fair play to them. But they could have got him in earlier. Like, it's just an absolute farce what Daniel Levy and the board have done.
Oh, well, they're fantastic, Chris. Don't hold back, do you, Chris?
Oh, absolutely not. Spurs should get what they deserve, which is relegation.
Oh wow, okay. Well, saying that, they're only a few points off 4th place, aren't they? So they're not doing too bad. Ed, with Nuno, Chris touched on the style of play that Nuno brings to any club that he goes to. We know from Wolves that Wolves set up quite defensively when they were quite defensively sound. I thought when they were under Nuno, they just weren't very good. Sort of, they weren't expansive, were they? They weren't really an attacking threat. And
this Wolves,
Wolves were, and I would argue that Spurs are sort of now the same, which is sort of what you would expect if Nuno's been sacked for being Nuno. I feel, and I feel like it's a bit unfair that he's been sacked for, I don't know, just being him. It's very sad to see, isn't it?
Yeah, I feel you're doing him a little bit of a disjustice on his time at Wolves. They finished fairly high up the table, and obviously just having a good defence doesn't win you football matches. I think it was probably more a case of they were very good defensively, but they had a couple of players who were firing. You think back to Jimenez before he had his head injury. He was being touted at potentially going to places like Man U. Traore when he had a final ball or a finish. Jota when they had him. They had decent players in the final third, and he's come to Tottenham with a main man in Harry Kane who doesn't want to be there. Heung-min Son, who is dragging Tottenham forward, kicking and screaming. And then on Saturday evening, the only player going forward for Tottenham that looked like they actually cared was Lucas Moura, who he took off after an hour, 58 minutes, which was just bonkers. And that can't be good when you make a substitution and the fans boo it. That must be just the most sinking feeling ever. That's like the equivalent of being on a Zoom work call and saying something and then everybody going, "No, you complete moron, that's wrong." I just think he got it so catastrophically wrong this weekend. Man U were there for the taking, no confidence, really were. And he just got it completely wrong. They were the team that Man U were last weekend. This weekend, made it so easy for them.
Lynchy, as the Arsenal fan here, are you sort of a wry smile at the state of Tottenham Hotspur Football Club right now and Arsenal rising up the league? How do you feel about this whole Tottenham saga?
Obviously I'm very pleased. I mean, as an Arsenal fan, you're always pleased.
Like Pep Guardiola. I'm so happy.
When you see Tottenham lose, especially the way they are losing, it's almost like a whimper, isn't it? Every game. Yeah. I mean, the only thing that it upsets me, but obviously going back to when Arsenal beat them, everyone was saying what a great performance from Arsenal. It was still a good performance. When you look back on it, you just think it wasn't as good as people were maybe making out at the time because that Tottenham team since then have been so poor. I definitely agree with what Chris was saying. I think the problems at Tottenham run deeper than just how they're playing at the moment. I think there's been serious mismanagement from the board for a number of years now, going back to since when they got rid of Pochettino. That man got them to a Champions League final, and now they're they can't. They got this summer. They got their fifth, like Chris said, their fifth choice manager. I think that the problems do run much deeper than just the players and the first team at the moment. It is at board level, and you're looking at the director of football now, and Daniel Levy. I think I heard on Saturday that the fans actually were chanting for Daniel Levy to leave as well. You know, it's not just the manager that the club have got a question now. It's also the ownership and the way the football club's been running. But as an Arsenal fan, going back to your question, obviously, yeah, I'm very enjoying it very much so, and hopefully, long may it continue. On the Conte point, though, I think it's quite interesting. Obviously, like you said, we were talking about Conte going to Man U, last week. I don't know. I don't know why he'd want to go to Tottenham over Man U personally. I mean, obviously, they're both in a bit of a predicament at the moment, but when you look at the size of the amount of the club that Man U is compared to Tottenham and the squad they do have, and I think it's got way much more potential. At Tottenham, you've got a striker who doesn't want to be there, and I feel like a very poor squad anyway. And if he bides his time, we still could be sitting here in a couple of weeks' time with Ole Gunnar Solskjaer gone, him sat at Tottenham thinking, I'd be in the front running for that Man United job now. Have I made a mistake?
Yeah, I think you mentioned it in the chat earlier about how Conte sort of openly said he doesn't join teams midway during the season, and that Man United would be the only team that he'd join mid-season for. And then he's in advanced talks apparently as of about an hour ago or so. So it's quite an interesting one. I don't know why Conte would go there. I feel like he's I don't know. He's got a bit about him. I don't think he'd like to be pushed around by Daniel Levy, and I feel like that's the only way you'd sort of be at Tottenham. Daniel Levy gets the final say. End of. So that's quite an interesting one. Barnes, you can't really talk about Tottenham Hotspur without talking about Harry Kane. How far is Nuno to blame for all the shortcomings that Tottenham have had this year, or how much is it down to A, the players, and B, even sort of deep in that Harry Kane? He scored 1 goal in the Premier League this season. I think he's got 7 overall or so, and 6 of them against us and against the Lithuanians football teams in the Conference League. So, who's to blame here?
I think to start off with who's to blame, I think Patrici and Levy made a mistake appointing Nuno in the first place. Obviously, he was their, fifth choice, as Lynch mentioned. And I think it was partially unlucky in that quite a lot of the people they interviewed weren't available, or people they wanted weren't available. At the time, Conte wasn't interested in the job, and Nuno was readily available, had done well at Wolves, and I think they thought it was a relatively safe appointment. But I think some of the things that Nuno has walked into, i.e. the Harry Kane situation, that's not down to Nuno, and I think that has had a huge effect on how Tottenham play. Because if you think about it, in the last couple of seasons, really, everything good has gone through Harry Kane or Son. Son's had a bit of poor form, but Harry Kane has been their talisman the last few years. He scored 20+ goals for the last 3 or 4 seasons, and he has been terrible. And he's not just been terrible. He's not just not contributing goals in the Premier League. He's not contributing performances. He's playing so poorly, and normally links a lot of their play. He's just doing nothing. He just as we know, he doesn't want to be there, and he looks that way. I think it's quite shocking, really, if you consider. I know it doesn't really. The fact that he's England captain shouldn't really impact on how we're talking about him now. But to me, if I'm Gareth Southgate, I wouldn't pick Harry Kane for the next England squad. He's been awful.
We've discussed that before, haven't we? Like how
exactly.
the last England squad, how Harry Kane was even in it, considering he barely played, barely scored this season. I think he was top scorer and top assister last year, wasn't he?
Yeah, it's not so much the lack of goals. I think Harry Kane's got the record of being really poor at the start of the season and then motoring on. It's more the attitude that would concern me and the performances he's putting in. But just coming on quickly to some of the points that the other boys made. I mean, how many points do you think Arsenal are ahead of Tottenham in the table?
2. It's only 2 points.
It's 2 points. So, do you know what I mean? I don't think the idea that Tottenham have been absolutely terrible is in comparison to Arsenal, who are obviously currently riding a wave of Arteta of positivity, and yet they're only 2 points ahead of Tottenham, who have just sacked their manager. And I think the only reason they've sacked Nuno is because they've seen Conte flirting with Manchester United, seen he's available, and they've gone, do you know what? We will offer him that more money that we weren't willing to give him in the summer. He's managed in London before. He probably likes living in London, which, as we know, that can be a factor. People would rather, managers from abroad often would rather live in London than Salford or Manchester. So yeah, it hasn't. I think they've just pulled the trigger because they've realised that they could actually get Conte, and that's a deal that could be done. Otherwise, I don't think Nuno would be sacked, because I think it is very harsh on Nuno that he's been sacked so soon. But I just think the availability of Conte has led to that, rather than necessarily the Manchester United performance, although it was absolutely dreadful. I agree with the boys.
They've completely swapped, haven't they, Arsenal and Tottenham? Start of the season, Arsenal were awful and people were potentially calling for Arteta out. And Tottenham, like Chris said, Nuno was manager of the month in August. And now they've completely fallen off and Arsenal have got some form. It's interesting to see how it all works. And now they're only 2 points different.
I think come the end of the season, they'll be quite close. I think if you just compare the squads, they're reasonably close, I would say. So it wouldn't surprise me, especially if Conte come in, that even if Tottenham finished above Arsenal come the end of the season, if Conte came in, or they finished close together regardless. I think it's just, as I said, Arteta's riding a wave of positivity going in the right direction, and Tottenham are going the opposite way currently, but that can all change within a couple of weeks.
So I feel like it's the manner of their performances. Like, I mean, they're the team who've conceded them. They've lost most games by more than 3 goals. They've had the least shots on target in the entire league. I think only Norwich and Leeds or Newcastle have scored less goals than them. And even I know Nuno won the manager a month, but even those 3 games, 3 1-0 wins. I mean, all the games they've only won by a 1-goal margin. They've never sort of wiped teams off the floor in any of their wins this season. So I feel like it's also the manner of their performances, rather than, like Ash was saying, like Kane's not even putting in a good shift. They're not winning games, but they're also not even playing well, and losing in an unlucky fashion. I mean, they've covered the least ground in the league. That's also quite concerning, isn't it? As a fan, you want your players to be running around, and chasing after the ball, and at least giving 110%. So yeah, it's going to be interesting.
Spurs just don't create chances. That's it.
Yeah,
they just don't create chances.
I've got a quick open question regarding Nuno. Could you boys maybe see him going to Newcastle? Obviously, the Newcastle post still vacant, by the way.
Nuno Castle is what I add to that.
Interesting. If they did go down to the Championship, you would have thought he's got an experience there, hasn't he, in the Championship? Obviously, the main reason they want to get him in is to keep them up. Obviously, I guess he's had experience with that with Wolves, but obviously, yeah, they did so well when they first came to the Premier League, didn't they? They almost secured safety really early. Wouldn't be a bad shout, to be fair. It still does feel to me like if they did get him, it'd be like a short-term thing as well again, and then push on to the next manager, like we said before, like the Mark Hughes appointment almost.
There we go. That's a very interesting point, Chris. I haven't thought about that. Although I have only just digested the whole Nuno news today. So your brain's obviously working quicker than me.
He's got connections in Portugal, and as we know, Portugal produce a lot of very good young players. So that could be a route that Newcastle go down.
Yeah,
like kind of Wolves,
factor.
Kind of Wolves 2.0, where they actually have like $1 billion to spend instead of 100 million. Could be scenes.
Imagine the scenes. But where there are losers like Nuno, there are winners. And Ole Rides Again, which is what Ash sent me in a text message last week, and I've just sort of continued to use it. Ed's fuming at this. But Chris, in our group chat on Saturday about 4:30, or just before that, Leif and Owen and Jord were just waiting for the lineups. Sorry, how can I forget that? The lineouts at American football. The lineups, and I think we were all sort of waiting with a bit of bated breath, weren't we, about how Ole was going to change it up against Spurs, if he was going to at all. And he went for 5 at the back, obviously. Has Ole sort of turned a corner here with Manchester United with this 5 at the back system?
Well, I'll be honest, I thought he almost turned into Antonio Conte with the way they played on Saturday. There was quite a funny picture on Twitter. I can't remember who tweeted it, but they pretty much just put Ole's face over Antonio Conte's like body in that, with obviously the Antonio Conte's hair and that. And I find that quite funny. But I also think Ole must secretly listen to this pod as well, because I was saying, why don't you play Cristiano Ronaldo and Cavani up front together? And he did that. He did that Saturday night, but the pair of them like fair play to them, given they've got a combined age of 70 or something like that. Right, both of them put great age. It's a superb age, but
my favourite
wine.
Exactly, both like fine wines, the pair of them. But no, they both put in incredible performances. I mean, that goal from Ronaldo was outrageous, and it pretty much reminded me of that Van Persie volley that he scored against Aston Villa for Manchester United all those years ago. And that, but like you could just tell. Like I'll be honest, I only really watched the first half in that because then that's when I went for my night out. And also I caught
here we go, the night out again.
I caught the game a bit here and there, sort of afterwards.
It was all a bit blurry after half time.
It was, to be fair. It's still a bit of a blur now, but like you could just tell, like especially first half, they just had such a better shape. Like what was it? They actually decided, instead of going to press, we're gonna keep our shape and then we'll press in the right areas. But then it's also one of them that there was against a Tottenham team that Tottenham just weren't very good on Saturday. So it'd be interesting to see like how Man United do. Obviously tomorrow night, no, not tomorrow night, Wednesday night. Is it? It's some night this week against Atalanta.
Midweek.
Midweek against Atalanta, and and then obviously the big Manchester derby Saturday lunchtime
this year.
Some point this year
when they play Man City.
And that, but yeah, and obviously I think it was a massive bonus that they had Varane back in the team Saturday because he also put in a solid performance alongside Lindelof and Maguire, and that could be a go-to back three for Ole, and that with those three players, I think those three quite a solid back three. So. Yeah, Ole rides again, as the old caption said.
Ed, I know you're sick of talking about Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. Do you even want to talk about him, or should I just move on to Dan?
Yeah, of course, I'll talk about him.
I mean,
do
you think he'll stay 5 at the back? Do you think he'll stay 5 at the back?
Yeah,
for, the rest
like
of his
Chris said,
days?
he obviously listens to the pod because I also said he should go 3 at the back, 5 at the back. Sorry, I said those 3 that he called. Although I think I said Varane or Bailly, but yeah. What else did I say? I said get rid of Aaran Wan-Bissaka, didn't I? But I don't think he's got many other options. Yeah, I mean, I'm happy for Ole to stay on because I don't think he's going to be a manager that leads United to titles, which is what I want. I don't want them to win anything, so I'm happy for him to continue. Like Chris said, I think, yes, you beat Tottenham, fine, but Man City next week is going to be a whole different ball game because obviously they had a poor result this week, so they're gonna bounce back, and it'd be great if they got absolutely trounced. Well, it wouldn't be great because they're right behind Liverpool, but it'd be great if they got trounced just to see Josh Leafy and Owen crying again. That was good fun.
Wow, who did Man City lose to, Ed?
A really, really awful side.
Yeah, an awful.
We'll come on to that. But I thought in your little opener there, Ting, I thought you were going to mention the fact that as the teams came out, all the United fans in our group chat were fuming because Fred and McTominay are still getting a game, and then they go and beat Tottenham comfortably.
Wow, I'm not one to question Ole Gunnar Solskjaer.
They weren't happy with 5 at the back either, were they? They weren't happy with that when the team came out. They were like, "Why are you playing 5 at the back? Bloody 2 old blokes up front."
It's almost like a manager knows more about football than people who don't know anything about football. Who knows? I don't know.
Who are too scared to come on the podcast.
Yeah. and then typical Man United fans, like as soon as they win the game, we're the best in the world. All the other teams are rubbish. Sue. Like,
Susan.
Yeah. All right, it was a Susan per performance, but just calm down a bit. Just calm down.
Very good.
Ole Gunnar Solskjaer.
Lynchy, you were away this weekend. Did you watch this Tottenham Man United game?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I watched it. I watched it in a pub in Leicester after the Arsenal game.
Lovely stuff.
But like Chrissy said, I mean, it was a good performance from Man U, no doubt about it. But Tottenham literally were the perfect team for them to play.
Yeah.
I mean, they're also coming off a bad run of games. You can't change it so that your player, before this game, even they were covering the least distance in the league, and then that's not going to change within a space of 5 days between the West Ham game they lost and the Man U game. So they were the perfect team. But yeah, it was a good overall performance from Man United. I mean, I think regarding the 5 at the back thing, I think Ole will sort of have to keep it now. Now it's worked for the game, and you can't go back and change it again now. I think the real test is going to be Atalanta away and then Man City at home. I think it almost is a bad result for Man City losing, because, they're really, that's a sort of a must-win game for Man City now. They probably could have got into that and maybe if they had beat Palace and thought, okay, we can, we probably get away with this for a draw, worst comes to worst. But now they have to go to Old Trafford and really put on a performance. I feel like they'll go there like they played against Chelsea. They really went to Chelsea. Chelsea were far ahead of them, and they just put in such a good performance. Chelsea didn't even have a chance against them. They just completely dominated them that game. But it's going to be interesting now. Man U on the up, but yeah, I think it's going to be tougher test for Ole to come in the coming weeks.
Yeah. Bars, Lynch, you just said United are on the up there. But are they? Are we just going to have this Ole gets sacked conversation when he loses next week or the week after or the week after? As soon as he loses the game, is it just going to be Ole out again?
Yeah, we'll have another caption on this pod. Ole does not ride again. Yeah,
Ole's fallen off.
Ole's not at the wheel.
Ole's been kicked by the horse. Ole out cold.
Exactly. It's so cyclical, this thing with Ole, and it's been going on for 2 seasons. I know the listeners to this podcast will be bored with me just slagging off Ole all the time. One thing I would say is this 3-5-2 that he's maybe stumbled on. How do you feel? Jadon Sancho, which has been bought for 75 million. They've stumbled across this 3-5-2. He isn't fit into that formation. Mason Greenwood could play one of the two strikers, but not really. Rashford is, again, I'd say he was a winger. Doesn't really fit into that formation. They're probably arguably the most free promising young players, and none of them fit into his new system. That seems
Van de Beek as well.
Well, the Van de Beek situation, as I said before,
he's a mythical.
You could always tweak
ridiculous.
it. You could always tweak it. Obviously, they played 2 up front at the weekend. Sorry, with then 1 and another 2. You could always go 2 and then 3, so you have 1 striker and 2 wingers. But then obviously you'd have to play Fernandes out wide or not at all. So yeah, it's a tricky one, isn't it?
They've got too many players in the. It's not stupid to say they got too many good players, but they've got too many big attacking names that they can't all fit in the same team. And at the end of the day, eventually that's going to be a problem for them. Was on your question of Ole Ting and sort of is he going to turn around? I was just going to read out some of Manchester United's results since they lost to Young Boys at the Wankdorf. So they lost to Young Boys.
Family friendly pod.
Family show. Then they beat West Ham, fair enough. Then they lost to West Ham in the EFL Cup. Then they lost to Aston Villa. Then they beat Villarreal, where they were absolutely horrific. Then they drew to Everton. Then they lost to Leicester. Then they beat Atalanta, who had basically their entire team decimated by injury. Then they lost 5-0 to Liverpool. And they've won 1 game after that, which was Tottenham.
That is starburst form.
How bad do you have to be? I don't know what it will take for Ole to go. So on the question, will Ole ride again?
What is their record?
More than likely.
How many of those have they won that you just read out? 3?
2, I think. 2 or 3. One against West Ham in the league, and then 1 against Tottenham and Villarreal.
1 in the Champions League, yeah. So 3 in what, 10 games?
That's 4 then. That's 4.
That's 4. But it's just they played awful, even in the ones they've won. Like they could have lost to
Villarreal. Completely dominated them the whole game.
Yeah. Mark Noble missed the last-minute penalty in their win against West Ham as well. Literally every game they've been bad, apart from
Mark Noble
the Tottenham game where they were good. And was it the first game of the season where they smashed Leeds? They played well. So that's all I've got to say on Ole. Just look at the results.
Let's move on.
Let's move on from the starburst form of Manchester United, and also Jesse Lingard could fit into the system. I think he's a forgotten man. He might fit into that midfield 3 a little bit better than someone like Van der Beek. Jay Lings, terrible.
Goes quite well for Halloween because it's like a mask. There you go.
And we are not moving on to the Halloween segment. We're moving on to the Premier League review. That would have been such a nice segue, but I'm so sorry. It would have been so good. But as always, there are other Premier League games that did occur last weekend. Chris, who was your best performance of the weekend, and why was it Graham Potter's Sexy Seagulls?
Don't get me wrong, it was a very good result for Brighton. I do agree that Alisson probably could have done a bit better for Mwepu's goal. And
the computer, he's nicknamed apparently.
Is he?
Yeah.
Why?
I don't know.
Because he's so
very
quirky.
I don't know. You carry on, Chris. Carry on.
Yeah, but I'd probably massively biased opinion, being a part-time Arsenal fan that I am. But the performance of the weekend was Sir Aaron Ramsdale, who I once again I'm set on this pod apologising to, and I apologise to Ash Barnes because Ash Barnes was pretty much the only person on this pod that pretty much said Ramsdale could be a good signing for Arsenal. And we was all pretty much like, well, you don't know what you're talking about, Barnes. You don't know what you're talking about. Why don't you stick to predicting Norwich as a dark horse with Chris Holland? Look at what that's turned out, by the way. But no, it was an incredible performance from Aaron Ramsdale. Exactly. Apology to Sir Aaron Ramsdale himself, and that but you got to give him credit. I mean, he's putting in performances. I mean, this is going to sound a bit big-headed, but he's putting in performances at a big club like Arsenal, and surely Gareth Southgate's going to. So Gareth Southgate's going to have to notice this sooner or later, because I think on current form, I think I'd rather have Aaron Ramsdale in between the sticks than Jordan Pickford, that's for sure. But yeah, no, and obviously just beating a team like Leicester at the King Power was just a brilliant performance, and that. And again, it's great to see someone like Emile Smith-Rowe, someone that's come through the youth system at Arsenal, scoring the second goal of the game. And again, I've said it once on this pod, and I'll say it again. For me, I think Smith-Rowe should get into the England national setup, into the senior setup. I mean, I know he's in the under-21s, but he's good enough to play. He's good enough to play for the senior team. I mean, what is it? We're against San Marino next game. I mean, San Marino, we could probably name James Henry, Matt Taylor, and the superb left back Steve Seddon, who's doing back heels at the weekend as well, setting up goals. We probably name them and still beat San Marino. But yeah, incredible performance from Arsenal. And once again, for the fans and for Sir Aaron Ramsdale himself, I apologise. You were amazing, Aaron. You were amazing.
That's lovely. That is very wholesome. Well done, Chris. That's sort of character development from you.
Yeah,
takes
real bravery to own up.
It does.
It really does. It really does. Ed, are you going to apologise to Ramsdale?
Yeah, I was like, well, I'm probably just going to apologise for everything I said on Friday last week. Apologise to Palace because they're a really good team, and I said they were crap. Apologise to Brighton fans because I said that I was not concerned about the Brighton game at all. And actually, the first sort of 30 minutes, I was pretty right. Liverpool battering them probably could have been 3 or 4-0 if Mo Salah could time his runs and Sadio Mane could get his arms out of the way. Then it could have been 4-0 after about half an hour. But we let Brighton back into the game, and to be fair, they took their chances and potentially should have won it. So well done, the sexy seagulls. Adam Lallana,
sexy seagull, our European tour.
Yeah, Adam Lallana punishing young Klopp for releasing him. Well done. Good to see Tariq Lamptey back in the side, actually, because he's
superb.
He was a stalemate. Not stalemate. What am I trying to say? He was in my fantasy team most of the year last year. That's the one. He was in my fantasy team for most of the year last year, apart from while he was injured. And yeah, he's a very good player, very good. Another Chelsea Academy graduate. Seem to be breeding them, don't they? But yeah, I think the big result actually, which we might have to come to Ash for, was the one at Turf Moor, up the mighty Burnley. Absolutely pummeling Brentford. I watched it on Match of the Day, and they were very completely different team. It was bizarre. Burnley did not look like a side who hadn't won a game all year, and equally Brentford did not look like a side who had been, sticking it to the big guns this year and taking points off Liverpool at home, beat Arsenal start of the season. So yeah, it's a really interesting one. I wonder whether Brentford are feeling the effects of not having their goalkeeper, because it's not goalkeeper's not just about making saves and shouting at people for making mistakes. There's a real leadership aspect to being a goalkeeper, and perhaps the young Spaniard that's come in to replace him is struggling a bit. We'll see. Time will tell. But yeah, that was my surprise result of the weekend.
Yeah, he didn't cover himself in glory for the second goal, did he? That Fernandez.
No, definitely not. Definitely not. Lynchy, are you going to apologise to anyone? or do you need to? I don't know if you've made any controversial statements, maybe about Aaron Ramsdale, but any public apologies, and also the Premier League this weekend.
I was a bit sceptical of Ramsdale. I think it was more just the mistakes he made last season. I did think he was going to be a better shot stopper than Bernd Leno. I just hate it because Bernd Leno was I think he had one of the highest errors leading to goals last season. That's what really frustrates me about goalies. And I feel like Ramsdale was similar in that sense last season. So I was worried that we were just sort of changing like for like. But I am really happy with how he's playing. Like Chris said, I think being at a bigger club like Arsenal now compared to the teams he was at before, people are paying more attention to him than they would have if he was on the same form he is now for someone like Bournemouth or Sheffield United last season, which is I think it's definitely good from an England sense. I mean, because like Chris said, there's going to be way more calls now for him to be starting for England, or at least pushing Pickford.
His distribution was so good, at the weekend. They showed a couple of clips of it on Match of the Day. It was unreal, some of his distribution.
Yeah, I think that's one of the reasons why they actually did go for him in the end rather than another goalie, because Leno's distribution is terrible. And obviously Arteta places quite a lot of emphasis on playing out from the back. I don't know if you guys ever remember like David Luiz and passing it back to Petr Cech, and then Petr Cech like hitting it against his own post. Kind of pass
Mustafi headbutted.
The glory years.
Yeah, like that's they've the last couple of years Arsenal really put an emphasis on that, and the goalies you've had before just can't do it. But like Ed said, his distribution was really good on top of the shot stopping, and he does seem like a really good leader on the pitch as well, and he seems like really popular with the players, which is always a good thing, and the fans now. I was gonna touch on the Burnley result as a shock. I'll leave it to Ash though. But I think
you can touch on it, Dan.
I think it just goes back to, I remember Ash saying on the podcast before when we talk about Burnley, they do just pull out these results when you don't expect them to, and those are the results that almost scrape them through in terms of staying in the league every season. Like Ed was saying, Brentford have been solid, good. They beat West Ham away, didn't they? Like a couple of weeks ago. Obviously, West Ham winning yesterday. I don't think it was a surprise. Obviously, they're fourth in the league now, and Brentford are going their way to these teams and putting in really good performances. So the way Burnley sort of brushed them away was definitely a surprise. That Cornet does look like quite a good player. I was surprised when he went to Burnley from Lyon, but I feel like either if they do go down at the end of the season, or if they sort of scrape through and he carries on having a good season, I feel like he could probably move on from there quite quickly and go to a better team. He didn't really seem like a Burnley signing, did he, when he joined? Scoring goals away at Man City and then in the Champions League, and then going to Burnley, who are going to be probably just trying to scrape survival this season. But I think also the Crystal Palace performance was, I wasn't as sceptical as Ed with regards to Palace, but I think Patrick Vieira has proved everyone wrong, because I was a bit worried for him as an Arsenal fan. I know he didn't have the best of spells at Nice when he was there in France, or when he was in America. So I was a bit worried of him, having a bad managerial record at Palace, but he seems to have changed it, turned them around almost. Like Conor Gallagher looks like a really good player. See,
he's another Chelsea player, former Chelsea player, isn't he?
Yeah, he's on loan.
He's on loan.
He's current Chelsea,
that's what I'm saying. I think he seems like one of them players. I don't know if he'd get into Chelsea squad, but it feels like he could be another player they almost waste. When he goes back to at the end of the season, probably wouldn't start for them. So it's sort of similar to Loftus-Cheek. There's a good player in there, and he's proven it now. But whether he'll be able to go back to Chelsea and actually secure a place. But Palace are reaping the benefits from having him on loan, because he looks like a really good player for them. And they're not just relying on Zaha now. Sort of.
Thank God.
The responsibility is being shared out a bit more.
Yeah, I think the leader quote there on Aaron Ramsdale is quite an interesting one. He's goalkeeper's obviously a very confident position, isn't it? And I feel he's becoming more confident as the games go by. I saw a video of him on That Guy's Jokes, the best Instagram page on Instagram, of him getting involved with the terrace chants when a goalkeeper usually takes a goal kick in front of the home fans.
Goalie!
Goalie! Good afternoon, goalie. And he was loving it. He was absolutely loving it. So, it's fantastic. And now Barnes, do you need to apologise or not? And why do you love Burnley?
I was actually in Burnley at the weekend.
Here we go. There we go.
Exclusive. I wasn't at the game, but I was in Burnley. I did predict them to get relegated, actually.
Oh no!
I'm going to stand by that. I think Brentford have lost the last 3 games. I think they got loads of injuries. The boys mentioned that David Raya's a massive loss. Like Chris said, at the second goal, goalkeeper at fault. I just think, I don't know, Burnley are Burnley. I mean, what else can I say about them? I'm sure they'll pull off a few shock results, but I just think they're worse this year than they have been previous years. On Aaron Ramsdale, do you not think the whole celebrating, getting involved with the chants is a bit Joe Hart?
Oh, it's a bit
Joe
Joe
like
Hart.
going down a dangerous path in a few years.
Is he a passion merchant?
Oh, he's
The
too
passion
confident.
merchant.
Yeah, like
Kieran Tang's favourite phrase, passion
I
merchant.
hate it. I hate passion
I don't
merchants.
know. I mean, he's playing amazingly now, and he will. He's obviously so young, so he's got a lot of promise and he's great talent. But I don't know. So it's a bit Joe Harty, which is worrying. I wouldn't be
Decent.
decent.
Tell him, lad.
Every day I'm shuffling. Carry on, Ash.
Okay. The other game that I did watch was Villa West Ham. Villa, I think Dean Smith's in big trouble. You know, They were not very good. Even before they went to 10 men, they weren't very good. West Ham thoroughly deserved the win. So these 4-1 at home as well is not good, and they haven't been. They've just been poor most of the season, really. And I don't think they're really struggling to get Ings and Watkins in the same team. They've got quite a few new players, and they're struggling to settle. And I think, Dean Smith's struggling. And obviously, the Palace game, they deserve a lot of credit for being Man City and actually playing really well. I don't think this was one of those games where you could say, they didn't just sit there and be a low block and City couldn't break them down. They were actively very good in the game. So fair play to Patrick Vieira and Palace.
Fair play to Patrick Vieira and Palace. Ed will be seething at that comment. Well, there you go. Anyway,
I stand by what I said. When they appointed him, he had absolutely no experience. It was a massive job at Crystal Palace because they lost a whole load of their spine of their team. But fair play to him, he's turned it around. He's got a lot of their young players playing very well. They're playing much more attacking football. So, yeah.
That's a lovely little apology. This is like a redemption arc for the Early Bath pod. This is lovely. It is the Halloween episode, and we did say it's a Halloween special, but we've done no Halloween content for 42 minutes. So let's just do some Halloween content now so we can actually say that it's a Halloween special. If we had more time and if we were more organised, we might have dressed up or something or put a costume on. But next year, right? Anyway, we'll do some Halloween content, and the Halloween content is I'm going to ask the boys, which manager would you like to have beside you in a zombie apocalypse, and why? And maybe if you want to do the one manager you wouldn't want as well, the worst manager you could possibly. It doesn't have to be Premier League. It could be any manager. Let's go past or present. Let's just open it up completely, because why not? We're not just a Premier League focused pod. Chris, you're up first because you're first on my screen. So up to you.
I did joke in the chat earlier that I'd have Paul Cook with me just because he changes his voice every time he does an interview. If you haven't,
how would that help in a zombie apocalypse?
It'd lift the spirits. It'd lift the spirits. But doing a more serious one. Although this might not sound serious to you guys, I think I'd go Harry Redknapp, manager. I'd want a zombie apocalypse alongside me, just because I think. I've been to see Harry Redknapp at Oxford New Theatre. He done like a little show where he talked about his career, obviously his football career, and obviously being a celebrity. And that's the thing. He's just got so many stories and that. So as long as you're surviving the apocalypse, like you could probably just talk like every day through like one of his stories, whether it be him gambling on the wrong horse or someone that he had at Portsmouth who was a striker wanting a massive goal bonus and Redknapp being absolutely fuming about it. And plus he'd bring the boys, wouldn't he? He'd bring good old Nico Crouchy Jafo. He'd bring the boys with us as well. So
and Ryderson.
Benjani.
Benjani, exactly. It'd be quality. In terms of someone that I wouldn't want with me, now that is a very interesting question. That's very interesting. I'd probably say Tony Pulis, just because.
Pulis?
Yeah, he'd probably just bore me. He'd just bore me in that. With him in his baseball cap. probably get the zombies will probably want to attack us. They'll be like, "Oh, I used to play." Well, maybe I know zombies that have brains and that. They'll probably think, "Oh, you used to play crap style of football." And but then at least I would probably push Tony Pulis into a zombie horde if I had to survive.
Wow, okay.
I would.
The old sacrifice.
Yeah, I would sacrifice him. So yeah,
for you lot. What's Warnock?
Yeah. To be fair, Warnock's up there.
Warnock's a shout.
Yeah. Warnock's a good shout, but yeah, no, I'd go Harry Aaran up.
Okay.
For a manager to be with, Tony Pulis to sacrifice to the zombies.
To be with, like you're gonna marry him.
Yeah.
To have
you
him to
misread
hold.
the question there. Which manager would you marry?
That's next week's pod. That's next week. Ed, the question goes to you. Talk me through your thinking.
Chris, I was just going to say, Chris has approached this in a completely different way than I have.
I would argue not the right way, because he was just like, who would you have a laugh with? At the pub?
But I suppose that is a big part of a zombie apocalypse, because you've got to spend a long time in you can't just go out. You've got to spend a lot of time in a confined space with somebody. So he's approached it in a very, very tactical way there, because I was thinking more along the like physical lines of like who wouldn't be scared, who's big and strong and could run for a long time. So like my thinking of who I wouldn't want was somebody like Rafa Benitez, because he kind of fits both boxes. He's fat, so he wouldn't be able to run or fight.
Stop body shaming for the second week in a row.
And he's quite boring, and he's notoriously good at giving people the cold shoulder. So he wouldn't be that good to spend time with, unless you really wore him down and picked his brains. Then he'd probably be all right.
A zombie probably would pick his brains too.
Yeah, good.
Carry
on. So who did I want? I think possibly some of the Germans. I think they'd be pretty ruthless. So like Klopp or Hasenhüttl, they'd be pretty good. But yeah, I think I'm gonna, for the ones I didn't want, I think I'd go for either Ole, because he's terrible.
Good. Okay.
Because there's no point being a good substitute at the end to come on and nick the winner if you're already dead. So I don't want Ole.
Oh no.
I don't want Rafa Benitez. I'd go for Klopp or Hasenhüttl, or maybe somebody like Pep or Arteta, but then they'd be too worried about getting blood on their perfectly moisturized skin. So no, not those guys.
Interesting. Very good thinking. Lynchy, what about you? The question's thrown over to you.
Steve Bruce, because he's got 99 pace.
Oh, yes, fantastic. Okay, let's end the pod there. That's the right answer.
No, I think it would be a toss-up between... we're not doing just Premier League managers, are we? Any
manager you want. Mm-hmm. Any manager.
Yeah, I think it'd be a toss-up between Sean Dyche and Diego Simeone.
Like Simeone's a great shout.
Simeone just would not be scared of anything, and he seems like he'd be quite fit. You know, you'd be able to keep up with it. He'd be able to keep up with you. Sorry, you know, Ed said you have to have the longevity factor about them, don't they? Be able to run.
Yeah,
he looks like he's in quite good shape considering he's a manager. Normally, ex-players who turn to managers normally put on a bit of weight, but he seems to have hasn't done that. But and then Sean Dyche just seems like he just look at a zombie, he just wouldn't care. and he eats bricks and glass for breakfast as well. he's triple hard.
Very good.
In terms of I think to be honest with you, I think the one I wouldn't want is Steve Bruce.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, I feel like he'd be. Obviously, the only thing with Simeone is obviously the language barrier. You wouldn't be able to really talk to him. But Steve Bruce, you talk to him, but he'd be I think he'd be really boring, and also he wouldn't be very fit or be able to keep up much. You know,
he'd be looking for the kebab shop.
Well,
we'd stop at the food shop. We'd slow down kebabs.
Yeah, we'd end up getting killed by a zombie in a kebab shop because he was still deciding which kebab to get or something. So it's like that picture. It's like that picture of Sam Allardyce when he's looking up like that. What are you ordering? I think Sam Allardyce would also be equally bad.
Yeah,
to be honest. Yeah. So basically, just all the old English managers who used to rotate around clubs would be terrible.
Hodgson, yeah,
Pardew.
Little Sammy Lee.
Little Sammy Lee
is probably the worst candidate.
It's very good logic from Lynchy there. Very good logic. I feel like Steve Bruce would be like in a zombie film. He's like the first one that dies, and it's all very sad. It's all very sad.
Got the sacrifice at the start.
Sacrifices himself for the good of Newcastle Football Club.
Well, I've got to do it. I've got to do it for the club.
Thing is, we'd be too worried for Steve Bruce as well.
We would be. We would
too
be.
worried for him.
We wouldn't let him do that. The film would end after like half an hour because we'd take our life ahead of Steve Bruce. We're just so worried about him. Barnes, what about you?
Sean Dyche. I want Sean Dyche.
I was going to say, I'm scared to say my suggestion. I think Steve Bruce would be quite good. I think he'd be good.
Yeah, let's hear the logic. Let's hear the logic.
He's such a I think in a zombie apocalypse, what you want most is someone you can trust. You don't want some erratic, complete. I think Klopp. Could you get anyone worse than a zombie apocalypse than Klopp? You get in there,
the zombies,
shouting all over, going crazy, running up and down. It's not passion when you get your brains eaten by a zombie, is it?
He's also like 6'4", so he could give you a lift over a fence.
I take your
Steve
point.
Bruce is tall, but
he put his arm round you and say, "Yeah, well done, big hug. You killed one."
Steve Bruce is very dependable, and I think that's exactly what you need. Also, I think he's tough, but he also has a softer side. So, like, he empathise with the situation, but he's also a tough guy. And I don't think he'd be scared. And I think he would be quite an interesting person. He's at the cricket at the moment, looking like he's having a great time. He's an all right guy.
I take your point because I feel like we're attacking this in the way of we're running away constantly from zombies.
Yeah, you're not running like 100
We're not running
meters,
constantly. Maybe Steve Bruce, he's so smart and tactile, he sets you up in a position where you don't even have to run.
Well, I don't know about his tactics, but I think David Moyes would be another sort of a tough guy, but someone that you could trust. Someone that wouldn't, if you had to save you, he probably would. He wouldn't leave you. Another one I think would be terrible would be Pep. Same reasons as Klopp. You don't want any of his craziness or mood swings going on in a
he'd constantly be thinking about. He'd constantly be thinking and talking about the zombies, wouldn't he? And
he'd overthink it. He'd try and get a route out of there. He'd let's just go through the middle of the zombie horde. That's what will work.
I think it falls 9.
I think it also depends what zombies we're up against. If we're up against like crawlers that you get on COD, then we'd be all right with Steve Bruce. But if you're up against the ones in like I Am Legend, he's absolutely gone. He's dead so quickly because they are rapid.
They are rapid.
It is a good point.
It's a very good point.
Good film.
Another manager, obviously keeping it close to Oxford United. I mean, I would say Carl Robinson.
No.
But Michael Appleton. I tell you what. I've stood next to Michael Appleton, and he is absolutely
big old boy.
He is. He's got guns. That bloke.
Proper tire flipper.
He is.
Yeah, that's a really good shout. I'm going to put Jose Mourinho in the list. Have you seen him run? I've seen a lot of videos of him running recently. He's speedy. He's speedy Gonzalez.
He'd throw you under the bus, Ting. He'd throw you under the bus. First opportunity.
Jose Mourinho? No. No, not old Jose. He'd park the bus.
Yeah, he'd park it and then throw you under it.
Exactly.
Okay, I don't know.
He'd park it and then he'd park it and then be like, "Oh, can you go and let the tyres down so it doesn't move just as the zombies arrive?" And then you'd be dead.
Wow. That is some good logic, I think, from you boys there. I've been very impressed by taking such a vague question and spinning out maybe 20 minutes worth of content on that. That was superb. Please put in the comments who you think the best/worst manager would be in a zombie apocalypse. I tell you who I would want, who isn't a manager, Pierluigi Collina. I think no fear in that man either. For the Sean Dyche effect of no fear for zombies. He is a scary man. I think the zombies would be scary of him. Just give it a red card or something like that.
What about Mike Dean? Because he slaughters chickens.
Mike Dean does slaughter chickens.
Experience.
He knows
that is really good. He knows what he's doing.
To fair, he's a caddy as well for women's golf, so you have a few golf clubs to whack a few zombies over the head.
Very good. Is that the right choice of apparatus though? Would you want when fighting a zombie?
Apparatus.
Horse. Yeah. Yeah. Well, please put in the comments who you think could be the best and worst manager in a zombie apocalypse. But apart from that, boys, I've discussed everything that I wanted to discuss today. Let me remove these banners. Does anyone else want to raise any AOB? I want to start doing this now. Just a bit of any other business.
AOB. Oh my Christ.
If anyone wants to touch base or anything, or we can loop round and do anything else. Does anyone want to bring anything up?
I'm getting a word.
Clinton Baptist, international psychic. Is there a Dan in the room?
Right.
You're right. You're right. And now we'll call it there if nothing's got anything to say. The Ox did win. So up the Ox. Currently 6th in the league, which is great.
Dom Hyam signed a new contract at Coventry
He
City
did.
today.
Congratulations,
Local
to
legend.
Dom Hyam. Local legend. Maybe not as big as Josh Leafy. Maybe on par. Who knows? Who knows? But congratulations to Dom. Anyway, that's lovely. That's lovely, Ed. That was a lovely bit of AOB.
Yeah.
Really good. Really good. Anyway, we'll call it there. We've been going for just under an hour. Thanks to everyone that's watched and listened. Please be sure to subscribe. We're on 43 still out of 50 as the time. I haven't checked that in the last day or two, so it may have gone up. But please do subscribe. We're so close to 50. We could be at 50 now if 7 people subscribed. Although I don't know if they have done. Who knows? But please do. We'll be back again later this week, I'm sure, to discuss more Premier League things. Maybe Ole gets sacked again, or gets touted to be sacked again because he did something wrong against Atalanta, and maybe Conte wants to join another Premier League club because he is the only available manager in the world right now, apparently. And maybe we'll do a little bit of a deep dive into something else as well. That'll be fun. Because I had fun with the zombie apocalypse question. That was really good. But anyway, it's waving goodbye from all the boys here at the Early Bath. Goodbye. Two-handed wave from Ed. That's huge. I'm not sure if I'm bored with that, to be honest. Anyway, see you later. Goodbye.